Sean, today I just want to talk about this Studio Series Transformers 1 Starscream figure. Um, I've just been seeing like a lot of reviews on this guy that are usually pretty negative. I don't usually do Transformers reviews unless it's a figure that I'm one of the first people to get. But I, I just have seen so many negative reviews about this guy that I think are just kind of dishonest and unfair. So I wanted to talk about like why he's good, what's bad about him, and like really where he should stand altogether. Because I know he's being trashed a lot, and he's actually a very excellent figure. So foremost is his design, of course. I don't think anybody's really complaining about the way he looks. I think everybody is on the same page that he looks incredible in both of his modes. I think everybody appreciates the way he looks. So the things that people are mostly complaining about are maybe the colors, which are a little bit brown and yellowed out. Even the red, it's turning out pretty good on camera, but it's actually more of a brownish red. And then the tan kind of jet colors are okay. I think a light gray would have been nicer, but these tan colors aren't too offensive. It's something like a desert camo kind of color scheme. And you can see it gets this like KO mainline Optimus Prime, how different the colors are. Like, I think this kind of gray would have suited him better. And then just that maybe upping the saturation to this kind of saturation would have been nicer, just to give him more of a cartoon kind of appeal, because he does have that brownish tint they've been using for some reason. But yeah, I think we all agree that he looks pretty good. I think what's contentious to a lot of people is his face sculpt, which I'll admit is very stupid. It's a bad head sculpt. They really messed up on the head. So I think if we get like a Skywarp repaint of this guy, I think he'll do really well. But this head sculpt just has to go. It's very terrible. The lips are haunting and weird. It looks like a kindergartner drew them. So yeah, I'll give you that the head sculpt is terrible. And then it really gives me like, this looks like hair, like just black hair all around his head. It kind of reminds me of like Lucy from Peanuts. It's not a good head sculpt. I'll give you that. It's missing a little bit of that Starscream charm, so he might need like a head swap in the future. But it's pretty close. It almost does the job, but I won't argue that the head sculpt is terrible. The other thing a lot of people are complaining about is like the QC issues on this guy, or actually the QC issues and the lack of ankle tilts. Yeah, it's annoying that this guy doesn't have ankle tilts. There really isn't a lot of space for them to have worked it in, because the ankle tilt would have had to been like up here, which is where the top of his hips end up. So maybe if they made his legs a little bit longer, he could have had some good ankle tilts, but because the heel and the toe are a separate piece, it would have been harder to work it in. Definitely not impossible, but it would have added up to the parts count. So, and I agree, like the ankle tilts is annoying that so many of these other figures do have it, but his his feet do work pretty well, so it's not entirely necessary, but it does limit how dynamic his poses can be. So yeah, that's a valid point as well. And then the point that I think is completely invalid is just the QC on this guy. He is a deluxe figure, so he does have some issues for sure. But overall, he feels very solid, and all his gaps are nicely covered in. We got gaps here, but that's so he can get like really extreme knee bend. And then of course he's got great posing. And then there's some parts of the QC that I understand, like these null rays are very terrible. They're like 2 millimeters thick right there. You could easily snap these. These are cheap and garbage. So these are not good accessories. He could definitely, I'll probably swap those out with something else in the future. But so those are pretty bad. And then his dumb weapon, which is mostly just for his jet mode, is also kind of bad too. I don't understand why he would even have this. It's kind of pointless. But you could always just keep that pegged into his back, and then you just have to deal with this gun. So that's not that big a deal. The other thing people complain about is that he falls apart. And that's the claim that I think is just really completely overblown. Like, I'll transform him. And if you want to complain about like his transformation being overly complicated, I actually agree with that. His transformation is kind of annoying, especially getting out this little cockpit piece here. There could have been better clearance, but as long as you bend everything all the way, it's actually not that big a deal if you're not in a rush doing it on camera like I am. Everything pegs together fine. You see I didn't destroy the figure trying to get that all loose. It wasn't really an issue. And then we just get his shoulder pads ready too. And then I saw in the comments on one video that somebody like mis-transformed his hips, but there's like this tab right here that obviously is going to end up in that slot right there. So you just really give it a good shove in and it clicks into place no problem. And then you can just sandwich the legs together. And you just make sure you click those hips all the way in. And then the wings are also kind of fiddly, so you get a lot of like things clashing together. And then it doesn't help that this Studio series has ball joints, but with a figure this size, sometimes you just have to have ball joints. Like there's not good options all the time. And then you just lift that up and that's going to get all of this into place, and then you can get his head and everything into place. And I'm doing this all in one take, so you can see like there's just no, it's not that difficult to just not dismember him. Everything is going together fine. So everything's got pretty good tolerances. It's all holding together. And then we just got to deal with, my least favorite part is like sandwiching this into his shoulder pads. I haven't really practiced this, so I've only transformed this guy maybe 3 or 4 times because I do find the transformation a little tedious. It's just too much. But it's kind of worth it because both modes are just so good. And then finally we just fold up these panels. And you can just clip the heels into the back of his fuselage. Well, actually, I don't know what you'd call this part of the jet. And then the panels will peg in correctly as long as you pegged everything else in. And then his forearms will peg in nicely into those blue panels, his calf panels. And there you go, like everything pegs very nicely. He's fine. Everything's nice and solid. Oh, I didn't point his toes. Everything's nice and solid. People are saying that this is a pretty good jet mode with minimal kibble, but like this undersection is pretty ugly, to be honest. They could have streamlined this a little bit more, would have been nice. But this is one of his better jet modes, I think. This one is sort of aerodynamic. But yeah, that was the whole process. It's really not that big a deal. He's not that hard to transform. He does have a lot of steps, which is kind of annoying. But you get a really good mode out of it. This is a very cool, kind of almost organic looking jet mode. It's very alien looking, which I appreciate. So yeah, I don't understand why people hate this figure so much. But then I could see if you complain about this figure, but then I don't think you can like Solus Prime, which I think was one of the worst figures that have come out in the last year. That figure had pieces constantly falling off, very tiny little tolerances, like her ankles were like on a 1 millimeter peg in some places. I don't see how you can complain about this figure and still like Solus Prime. It just doesn't add up to me. If you're going to complain about this guy feeling cheap and coming apart at the seams, then you have to hate Solus Prime too, because that figure I just could not stand. Her transformation was disgustingly complicated for how small that figure was. And just that she turns into a car, which is the most basic thing you can transform into. And like a car that doesn't even exist, just a car that they made up. There's no excuse that her transformation had to be that complicated. So I guess the thing that bothers me is if you're going to hate this figure, then how can you like Solus Prime? Because that figure is just so much worse. in every single way, except for that, what, she has ankle tilts on her tiny, flimsy ankles. Yeah, I don't think that makes up. That doesn't add up to me for why this figure would be worse. But yeah, that's basically my thoughts as I get this guy back into his robot mode. Yeah, I just wanted to defend him. Probably, I do like Starscream generally as a character. I think he's very useful and he's good for the plot a lot of the times. And he's an interesting character, so maybe I have a soft spot there. But this figure is it's just generally good. If it's complicated, but it's a Studio Series figure, so you kind of expect that. It's not going to be simple like the mainline figures. And yeah, I've got him all the way back into robot mode again. No issues. Nothing flew off. I was a little bit delicate with him, but I was also a little bit in a hurry, and it all worked out. So again, where's the issue? He's a great figure. Just I think he's definitely underrated, and personally, I would really like if his wing junk is getting in the way. I would really like if a KO company actually knocked off this figure. I know that's probably not a good thing to say because the designers worked so hard on this guy, and it shows that they gave him a lot of love. But I would really like, I think a lot of what people are complaining about would actually be fixed if this figure was a Voyager class, which he should have been. So if they upscale him to about this size, I think that's going to eliminate a lot of the problems people have with him and maybe change his color palette just a little bit. I think he's going to be one of my favorites. But as it stands, I think he's an excellent figure. I highly recommend him. As long as you're mindful with what you're doing and transform him correctly, I don't think you're going to have any issues. But yeah, that's my thoughts, and I'll see you in the next one.